Hey there, it's Imran and you're watching Imran Plus. Welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about episode 3 of Miss Marvel, everything that I loved and also everything that I didn't love and what I am kind of worried about for the rest of the season. Make sure you click that subscribe button so you don't miss any upcoming videos and so you can help this channel grow. Alright, let's get started. Now right off the bat, I love weddings, and so I really enjoyed both the Mandy and the wedding scenes in this episode. I actually really wish we could have spent a lot more time there and could have shared some more from that part of the culture with audiences. I really think that Amir and Taisha seem really cool, and I would have loved to get to know them a little bit more in this episode, especially since this was a big moment for both of their characters. I also enjoyed the use of Bollywood songs in this episode. It really made the weddings and the entire celebration more authentic, especially Hum Aapke Hai Kaun and Mehndi Rachne Wali, which are both iconic songs that are played at almost every wedding. Now, I didn't love how the actual nikah was presented in the show. That's where both Amir and Taisha actually get married and Sheikh Abdullah is present at the masjid. I don't like that it was presented in a parallel way to Christian weddings because that's not how people are usually seated and that's not how the ceremony is conducted. I wish they had gone with a more authentic presentation. Speaking of Sheikh Abdullah, I think he is a great character and a great influence on Kamala. I appreciate him being depicted in a positive and warm light, especially when a lot of Muslim representation is negative. Having the Imam of the mosque be presented in a positive way does a lot. His conversation with Kamala in particular was very inspiring and also religiously aligned. It also is directly from the comics. Those exact words and quotes are used, and I think that that was a great mini speech for Kamala in terms of what type of hero she needs to be, especially as a Muslim hero. And I thought he was also great when the Department of Damage Control showed up to the masjid in their shoes. I physically cringed. That was so bad. So you know they're evil if they're walking in the masjid with shoes. I also really liked Nakia being an advocate for her community and for being aware for her rights. But her saying that she learned all of that from Law and Order reruns really undercut her entire speech. I mean, I think that's an example of MCU humor getting in its own way because we were building her character to be a civically engaged advocate, and then you're undercutting that by saying she learned that from TV shows. I didn't like that, and I think they could have done a better job. Speaking of Nakia, I also did not love that she later called the Department of Damage Control during the wedding. I don't know why exactly she did that, what her motivations were, so I need to hear her explanation because her calling the Department of Damage Control goes directly against what she said earlier at the mosque. So either she knew Kamala was somehow involved and she tried to protect her, or she actually called the Department of Damage Control to do something. And I think I don't appreciate that because it goes against what she said and it makes her a hypocrite. And I also don't love that she removed her hijab in the series. I understand she was with Kamala, so you know it all makes sense, but Hollywood has this stereotype and obsession with unveiling Muslim women, and I think that it has happened in almost every depiction of a Muslim character, and seeing it here was disappointing. Obviously, I'm not a person who wears the hijab, so I can't really speak on whether or not it was right or not, but for me, it didn't sit well. Now, we're moving into things that I didn't like, so let's talk about the elephant in the room, and that is the Jinn storyline and the Jinn powers. So the villains in Miss Marvel are the clandestine. As I told you in my breakdown, in my trailer breakdown, which is linked above, I also explained why this change is problematic in that video, but as a recap, in Islam, Jinn are beings made of a smokeless fire, but they do not interact with humans. And there are 3 types of creation: angels, jinn, and humans. Angels made from pure light, jinn from a smokeless fire, and humans from the earth and clay. And so this show is taking the concept of Jinn, which is a pre-Islamic concept, but are a core part of Islamic belief, and using that as a way to introduce Kamala's powers as well as the villains. There is a comic precedent because the clandestine are from the comics and they are Jinn in that storyline, but I think the way that this show is using that as a central part of Kamala's character is problematic. Now, some scholarly interpretations do suggest that Jinn reside in a different dimension, and of course, you know, in Islamic texts they do have different abilities and they have free will like humans, so they can be good and bad. but good Jinn are not permitted to interact with humans, while bad Jinn do. And that is more of a complex and nuanced and complicated discussion that I encourage you to read up about, but that is it at its core. And so by this logic which the show is using, Kamala's grandmother was one of these Jinn, and that makes Kamala part Jinn. But if these Jinn are interacting with humans, that necessitates them as Jinn that are not good and lawful per Islamic text. And since Kamala is a Muslim, that is what we're going to use. So I don't really appreciate that. That's one major flaw. And I think the whole concept of Jinn/genie itself is just another Orientalist trope, and it's problematic from a religious standpoint because this is a core part of what people believe, and it's not just a fantastical concept that you can play around with and reinvent as you see fit. The fact that this show is building on so much of this concept means that the change had to have come from one of the writers or producers who are either Muslim or South Asian, and that disappoints me, to be honest, because I would think that they would know better than to take such liberty with a religious concept like this, especially when it's completely unnecessary. Because based on this episode, making the powers and the bangle related to the Jinn was not necessary at all. This whole clandestine family is essentially replacing the Inhumans family from the comics, and instead of her powers being activated by Terrigen Mist, it's actually activated by this bangle. And they even get the bangle from a Kree hand, it seems, from the beginning. And in the comics, the Kree are the ones who created the Inhumans. And so it really feels like this change is unnecessary because they could have just gone with the original Inhuman storyline, because they're keeping the Kree stuff. They're keeping this concept of her powers being activated by some sort of element from the species. And so I don't think that it's necessary or needed. I think if they wanted, they could have made it a different dimension of different people, like in Shang-Chi's Ta Lo, without any religious tie-in. I think that is the part that's unnecessary, the religious aspect of this all. It is a bit disappointing to see this misstep this early in the show, especially when the rest of the show so far is so good. I guess let's see where they go with this. We'll get some more answers in the next episode when we go to Karachi, and I'm excited to meet the Red Dagger, or the Red Daggers, as I theorize in my breakdown video, which you can check out. Lastly, I do want to talk about Kamala's superhero journey so far because I think they're doing a really good job with it. I'm really enjoying the slice of life aspect of the show, and seeing Kamala discover who she is going to be as a hero is really charming. But I think due to the nature and structure of the show, maybe it being on Disney Plus, I'm not sure, part of that journey is slightly undercut. Nakia not being able to piece together earlier that Kamala is Nightlight, and her parents being so lax and unbothered by Kamala missing in action after pulling the fire alarm and ruining her brother's wedding, are just glaring, obvious mistakes in my opinion. I also think the fight scene in the wedding hall was not as strong as it could have been, and that's a running theme with these Disney Plus shows. I feel like they're in some ways rushed out so quickly that they aren't able to be perfected as well as they could have been. The first two episodes felt near perfect to me, and check out my video breaking down why I felt that way, but this episode is in some ways a step back from where we ended up at the end of the second episode. Overall, I did enjoy aspects of this episode, but it is my least favorite of the three so far. Everything I had discussed in my trailer breakdown is slowly starting to be revealed, and I am worried to see how it plays out. I was hopeful that maybe it would be changed or play out differently, but so far what I was worried about is true. I hope somehow, some way they can make this work, because I do love the characters and the settings so much, and I want this show to succeed. So we'll see what ends up happening. I am excited to visit Pakistan in the next episode though, and where I think we're gonna meet some new characters and get some more backstory. So what did you think of this episode? What are your favorite parts? What things did you not like, if any? And if you are also Muslim or South Asian, what do you think of this change regarding the Jinn and her powers? And if you're a fan of the comic, what do you think of this change, and do you think that they could have made the Inhuman storyline work? Thank you so much for watching. I hope you had a great time. Lots more videos coming soon, but in the meantime, make sure you like this video and subscribe. Click the bell icon so you don't miss any upcoming videos, and don't forget to share this video with your friends and fellow movie enthusiasts. I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.